Something's not right in the garden. Man, we have all been there, haven't we? You walk up to your absolute favorite leafy friend, maybe it's that prized tomato plant out on the patio, or, that stunning ficus in your living room, and suddenly that familiar crime scene panic sets in. The leaves are curling, the edges are totally brown, and it just generally looks sick. Your heart literally sinks. You've officially got a plant emergency on your hands.
So, you're staring at this poor distressed plant, and the immediate question popping into your head is, why is my plant dying? Be honest with yourself right now. What's your absolute first instinct when you see sad, wilting leaves? Do you blindly reach for the bug spray, just completely convinced some invisible pest is chewing away at the stems? Or, hey, maybe you immediately grab the watering can and a heavy dose of fertilizer, thinking you just need to feed it back to health. Look, we all do it. But today, we're going to learn why those knee-jerk reactions might actually be making things way worse.
So, in this explainer, we're diving into the botanical detective story, and our main focus today is uncovering the true impact of temperature extremes. Our goal here is pretty simple. We need to stop blaming the usual suspects, like bugs and basic diseases, and start looking at the real environmental culprits hiding in plain sight. We are going to learn how to actually read what our plants are trying to tell us about the air and soil around them.
All right, moving on to Section 1, the garden crime scene. Let's set the stage.
Let's kick off our investigation by examining a severely distressed plant. Take a really close look at the visual evidence on this tree. The scorch and defoliation you're seeing here are, well, they're severe. Now, your very first thought might be that a massive fungal infection or some crazy swarm of insects just tore through this tree. But the truth? No way. Insects or fungi absolutely didn't cause this damage. What you're looking at is a textbook example of environmental drought and heat stress. The environment itself is the actual culprit here.
Okay, Section 2. Biotic versus abiotic suspects.
To really solve this mystery, we've got to divide our suspects into two main categories. On one side, we have biotic factors. These are your living threats, right? The fungi, the bacteria, viruses, and insects that directly attack the plant tissue. On the flip side, we have abiotic factors. These are the non-living environmental threats. Things like severe temperature extremes, drought, or even mechanical damage from, say, a rogue lawnmower or some really heavy winds. The big secret that most gardeners totally miss is that these abiotic issues, specifically those harsh temperatures, are very often the true primary cause of a plant's decline. So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding how these two interact. Just look at the shot hole damage on these plum leaves. Yes, it's caused by a bacteria, meaning it's a biotic disease, but it can so easily mimic environmental damage. Here is the massive takeaway for you. Pathogens and pests rarely, and I mean rarely, attack healthy, robust plant tissue. They're opportunists. They usually just wait in the wings until a plant is already severely weakened by its environment, like, say, suffering through a massive heat wave before they move in for the kill. Let's dive deeper into that. Section 3, the heat stress culprit. Since we know the environment really sets the stage, let's focus on our prime abiotic suspect, extreme heat. When the weather gets intensely hot, you'll very often see a defensive reaction called physiological leaf curl. The plant's leaves literally roll upward or inward. And why do they do that? To reduce their surface area, lower their temperature, and limit water loss through transpiration. Now, when this happens, the leaves often appear incredibly thick and leathery, but pay close attention, they actually remain a totally normal, healthy green color. I absolutely love this quote because it makes the concept so relatable. It's like putting on a hat and squinting your eyes on a blazing hot day. It's uncomfortable, maybe a little unsightly, but it's not a sign you're failing at life. Curling leaves aren't a sign of failure at all. Actually, scratch that. They're a brilliant survival adaptation. The plant is actively reducing stomatodal transpiration, so it doesn't just dry out entirely. It's literally playing defense against the heat. But we do need to look at what happens when the plant just can't keep up. Check out this maple leaf. If the environmental heat completely outpaces the root's ability to pull up water, you get scorch. You can clearly see those papery brown edges separated from the green tissue by a really slender yellow halo. Notice how the browning pattern starts right at the tip and margins and moves inward. This is the physical scar of intense heat and a major water deficit.
All right, on to Section 4, cold snaps and drafts.
We've talked a lot about heat, but now we really need to look at the other extreme, how sudden cold impacts plant health. And it isn't just about freezing winters outdoors either. Sudden temperature swings indoors can be incredibly destructive. If you've got an indoor AC blowing a cold draft, or you leave a window open on a chilly winter night, you can literally freeze the plant's pores shut. This slows down the movement of water instantly, causing immediate physiological distress. The big visual clue here? Well, the leaves tend to curl downward, and you'll often see dark, water-soaked patches appear after just one night of chill.
Let's break down this forensic suspect matrix. It shows exactly how symptoms overlap across all these different temperature extremes. Notice how leaf drop and brown leaf margins can happen whether the temperature is too low, too high, or even if there's just a draft. And leaves curl or cup happens with low temps and drafts. But remember, high heat causes that upward physiological curl we talked about just a minute ago. Diagnosis is super tricky, mostly because the plant has a pretty limited vocabulary to show us it's stressed.
That brings us to Section 5, the leaf curl decoder. Since these symptoms overlap so much, we really need a practical tool to help distinguish between a harmless adaptation and an active emergency. So here are the golden rules so you know exactly when to worry and when to just chill out. If the plant is generally healthy, it's growing and flowering, but the leaves are slightly curled, relax. It's just adapting. Are they curling during hot, dry weather? Don't panic. Just provide some even moisture and maybe add some mulch. Do the leaf edges curl upward after heavy rain? Stop watering and let the soil dry out. Now, if the leaves are tightly curled into little tubes, especially right at the tips, that's when you check for pests like aphids hiding underneath. And if the new growth is twisted, stunted, or totally discolored, that is your giant red flag to investigate for serious stress, like a virus or chemical drift.
Moving on to our final part, Section 6, Breaking the Disease Triangle.
Let's reveal the final piece of this puzzle: how to actually stop full-blown diseases from taking hold in the first place. The secret lies right at the core of plant pathology, the disease triangle. You see, a disease cannot magically appear. It only develops when three factors align perfectly at the exact same time. You need a susceptible host, an active pathogen, and a favorable environment. If you understand this, you realize just how much power you have. Because if we fix the environment, like, say, stopping those crazy temperature extremes, the pathogens simply cannot successfully attack the host, even if they're literally floating in the air or sitting in the soil.
So here are the actual actionable steps you can take today to alter your plant's environment, break that disease triangle, and prevent extreme temperature stress. Step 1, relocate your indoor plants away from harsh AC drafts, heating vents, and direct radiator heat. Just move them. Step 2, outdoors, provide temporary shade for your vulnerable plants during extreme summer heat waves. Step 3, water deeply and infrequently. This essentially forces the roots to grow deep and become resilient to both heat and drought. And step 4, use a fan on low indoors to create a gentle, indirect air circulation. This breaks up those stagnant pockets of extreme heat or cold.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time your plant looks a little rough, are you going to immediately assume it's a victim of pests and reach for the spray? Or will you put on your botanical detective hat, look at the environmental clues, and realize you might just be looking at a master of survival, brilliantly adapting to its environment? Remember, survival isn't always about comfort. It's about smart responses to stress. Observe first, adjust the environment second, and then just watch your plants thrive.